Today we're gonna swap out the alternator, and don't be discouraged. This is a quite easy fix and it's inexpensive. What leads to an alternator failure, or the symptoms of it, is you're driving down the road and the radio begins to weaken and die, and the lights begin to weaken and basically go lights out, and your alternator basically stops charging the battery, and then that will lead to basically an engine failure. So step one, we'll get right to it. Disconnect the negative terminal of your battery. I'm using a 10mm socket. We'll start there. Negative terminal is off. Swap over to the other side of the engine. There's the alternator, and you want to use that same exact 10mm socket, and right underneath this little rubber boot is a 10mm bolt or nut, and you want to use that same socket and pop that off. Disconnect this electrical part. Straight underneath it is this little electrical connection point. There's a little tab right there. Push it in, and it might give you a little fuss, but push it in and just kind of yank the thing out carefully, okay? Just like that. That's what it looks like. And next part, there is a connection point right here that houses the wiring. You just take a little hook and pop that part off there from the alternator. Okay, got all the 3 points off. Very important, you want to take a good look at the serpentine belt and make sure that you know, take photos of it, you know how to put it back on. This is actually going to be the tensioner bolt down there. Once you disconnect that, this is going to swing freely on this joint right here. And down below, you got to kind of wiggle your fingers in. Way down in there, there's a 13mm bolt. You're just going to loosen that up, and then there is another bolt right there that is just right down here. That is the tensioner bolt. Once you get this loose, I know it's long, it takes a little while. Okay, there's what that bolt looks like. Alright, next thing, 14mm bolt that came out of the top portion, top harness of the alternator. You've got access to move the alternator and move the belt, okay? So you can pop that belt right off, okay? The very last thing, on the bottom side of the alternator, you have this little electrical connection. Just go ahead and pop that off. Okay, alternator's out. There's the old, there's the new. We'll start putting everything back together. A great time to change out that serpentine belt. Okay, so again, the first thing you're going to do, I just want to do a quick recap, is this is the first bolt you're going to loosen up. This is your pivot bolt, allows the alternator to pivot on this harness. Second one is your locking bolt, which is the one way down in here, and that secures and locks the bottom portion of the alternator after your tension. Okay, so this is the first one you loosen up. Second one you loosen up when you're taking it off is this locking bolt, and then this is the tensioner bolt. And you'll notice on the bottom it has a little metal block, for example, and that there's a hole in the metal block for the tension, and there's a hole in the metal block for the locking bolt. Okay, so very important, you don't actually have to take this bolt 100% out. So you actually want to keep it in that metal block there, okay? And you'll be able to take this alternator off. Alright, position the new alternator in place. You want to put in the pivot bolt, and with the locking bolt on the opposite side. Don't tighten this down all the way. You want this to be able to pivot as you position the locking bolt below, as well as securing the tension. And you're going to get the belt on from here. So basically just pull that over, and you want to basically go all the way around and make sure that the belt is properly aligned on every part of each pulley that it's supposed to be on, okay? Just like that. And there's one down below as well that you want to wrap around. Okay, again, here's the tension bolt, and I basically loosened it up all the way as far as I could without taking it out of that little metal block right there. And I just wanted to show you how the actual metal block will be positioned. So the hole will be on the top portion, and you're going to basically lift the alternator back like that, or pivot it, as you can see, and you're going to tighten down the tension, and once you've got that tension on the belt, it'll be time to position that locking bolt. Now that I have the pivot bolt tightened, the tension where I want it to be, I then went ahead and tightened down the locking bolt on the bottom. And again, do a quick thorough check on the bolts, or on the belt. Next thing, you're just going to start reconnecting the electrical points. So you've got your, let's see, you've got your electrical point right here that you put in the side, which is right there. And then you've got your rubber boot, and underneath that rubber boot is that electrical point where you'll put right here. After that, you're going to hop over, you put the negative terminal back on your battery, and again, one thorough check on the belt, the alternator, and everything else that has been involved in this before you start the engine. Okay, here's the final product. Got the engine running, got the alternator all secured, got the serpentine belt on, and everything looks like it's running smoothly. So we're just going to let it run for a little while, and just to make sure everything properly runs smoothly. And guys, if this helps, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Love to have you as a subscriber. Keep watching. We appreciate it.